Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Hope everybody is happy and healthy and getting out there to exercise. So yeah, trail running versus road running. I have always believed that trail running is much more demanding than road running, like at least 30% more demanding. But I realized the other day that I had no evidence for this, and so I set out to find out. And the end result of this research is this video. And I decided to look in a couple of different places. I searched online to find what academic research has been done on this topic to figure out what the differences might be and if one is better than the other. And the second thing that I did is that I did a few runs of my own to see if they would show any difference. And so in this video, we're going to look at the results of my research. Is trail running better and harder than road running? Let's dive in and let's find out. And so for starters, what do we mean by harder? Well, I think what we mean that trail terrain is more uneven, more complex, more unpredictable, softer, and potentially more undulating. And therefore, it should require much more muscle activity, much more muscle coordination for balance, if nothing else, and better proprioception. And therefore, it should require greater energy expenditures, which in turn should lead to higher heart rate because the heart needs to pump harder to provide oxygen to muscles that are working harder and potentially more muscles. It should therefore also increase our running power. In long term, if we can find studies that have followed people over time, it should result in higher VO2 max and greater leg strength. And so let's see if it does. And so the first academic study that we're going to look at is this, the title being Effects of Trail Running versus Road Running. And what they did in this study is that they ended up with 20 sedentary participants, 10 in each cohort, road versus trail. And they trained them for, I believe, 8 weeks. They tested them on a variety of different measures, balance, leg strength, cardiovascular capacity, and things like that, both before and after. And so what did the results show? No statistically significant difference between the two groups. Wow, that's very disappointing. Now, if we look a little bit closer, it says that aerobic endurance came close to being statistically significant in difference between trail and road, with trail being better, but it didn't quite pass the bar. Similar story for balance and leg strength. Maybe trail running improves it a little bit more, but once again, not statistically different. Now, this is a small study, 20 participants, relatively short period of time, so maybe we shouldn't expect a lot, but nonetheless, that's the result of this study. So the second study did things a little bit differently. The title, as you can see, is Flat versus Simulated Mountain Trail Running, and we're going to look at the simulated in a second. What they had here is 20 well-trained athletes, so 20 runners. And they did it on a treadmill, but a very clever treadmill, a treadmill with 2 axes, a pitch and a roll. And what it enables them to do is to create some of the instability that we obviously get when we run trails. And once again, they tested them on a variety of different measures. And what is the conclusion? Cardiopulmonary and metabolic demands did not differ between the trail and the road group. So once again, there is no difference between trail and road running when it comes to the energy expended and the load that it puts on our cardiovascular system, on our heart. How disappointing. So, but these are 2 academic studies, right? What do the academics know about running? So, with that, I decided to conduct some of my own research on myself with my own running. And so this is what I set out to do. I went for 2 different runs, 4 days apart, one road, one trail. The road was a combination of asphalt and really hard-packed dirt road, which, as many of you know, could actually be harder than asphalt at times. The trail was a real wooden trail, roots, rocks, undulating up and down. Really good trail. I know them both well. Temperature was very similar both days, sort of around 60 degrees. Very nice, very pleasant. So was the humidity. I wore 2 different pairs of shoes, of course, but these are shoes that I've had. I probably need to switch them soon, get new ones. No plates, nothing fancy, so just perfectly regular shoes. And I measured both of these runs with my Apple Watch SE2. So we start by looking at the summary stats of my both runs. The trail one is the left, the road one is on the right-hand side. Similar though not identical paces, and I think that's actually good in this case for the comparison that we're going to do. Trail run being slightly slower, somewhat more elevation on the trail run, but I don't think it matters a heck of a lot. It's up and down. Since I'm running a couple of loops here, it's going to be the same up and down, so it's going to even out. Slightly higher cadence for the trail run because, as we will see in a second, my stride length was slightly shorter, which is of course what we would expect in uneven terrain on trail. But here is the real thing. The running power is lower for the trail run. And yes, the pace is slightly slower, but if trail running was like 30% more demanding than road running, then my running power for this trail run should not be lower than it is for the road run. It should be at least equivalent, or it should be higher. So that's a little bit disappointing right there. But let's keep looking at the rest of the data. And so quickly on this slide, we see the stride length comparison and the ground contact time. Once again, trail run to the left, road run to the right, and nothing surprising here. Slightly longer ground contact time for the trail run, slightly softer, shorter stride length. I guess that makes sense, but even then the difference isn't that great. But here is the great disappointment. Let's look at the heart rate data. And once again, my heart rate is lower for the trail run. And yes, once again, the pace is slightly lower, like 2% lower. But if trail running was that much more demanding, shouldn't my heart rate be higher for the trail run than it is for the road run? But it's not. And once again, that is kind of disappointing. Not what I expected. That doesn't confirm my hypothesis that trail running should be something like 30% more demanding. And once again, here is more detail on the running power. And once again, it goes up and down a little bit more because the trail is more undulating. There is more up and down. But overall, on average, it is still lower for the trail run. So what do we make out of this? Both the academic data and my own limited data. Well, it doesn't look like trail running is more demanding than road running. It looks like this hypothesis or this myth is busted. Now, having said that, I still prefer trail running to road running, if for no other reason, because I enjoy being out in nature. I think it's more varied and therefore more interesting. But as far as the physiological benefits are concerned, I don't see any evidence that one is better than the other. And so there we are. And now I want to hear from you. What does your data show? If you look at sort of your road and trail run, can you see any differences when you compare sort of apples to apples, if you want? If you have interesting insights, please share them with us. I like to believe that trail running is better and harder, but so far I don't have any data for it. Maybe you do. And with that, folks, It's been a pleasure. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Be well, and we'll talk to you soon. Take good care. Bye-bye.